Alright, gather round culture vultures and story lovers. Today we're diving into something classic. We're talking about a playwright named Eugene O'Neill. Ever heard of him? If not, you totally should have. This guy was a big deal. Seriously, a Nobel Prize winner for literature. He wasn't just scribbling notes on napkins, you know. He penned some heavy-hitting plays. He explored the deep, dark, and sometimes super awkward parts of being human. Think of him as the director of your most intense emotional roller coaster. He definitely knew how to make an audience things. Now, one of his most famous works is The Hairy Ape. Hold on, it's not about a shampoo commercial gone wrong, or a romantic comedy with a surprisingly hairy lead. Though that could be funny, right? This play is about a fella named Yank. He's a stoker on a massive ocean liner. That means he shovels coal into fiery furnaces. He's strong, he's tough, he's, well, a bit like a hairy ape in his power. He's the kind of guy who thinks biceps solve all problems. He's basically the Hulk. But instead of turning green, he just gets covered in more soot. So, why is this play still a big deal like 100 years later? Because, my friends, it tackles some major themes. We're talking about where we fit in society, what happens when the world changes and you don't change with it. It's about the struggle to belong. The play makes you ask big questions, like, does the fancy suit make the man, or is the guy powering the whole darn ship just as important? O'Neill wasn't afraid to get into the nitty-gritty of class differences and what it means to be an individual in a big, scary, industrial world. Get ready, because this story is quite the journey. It's intense, a little bit tragic, and definitely makes you think. But hey, don't worry, we'll find the humor in it. Because even when things get super serious, there's always room for a wry observation. Or maybe a well-placed, oh honey, this play, The Hairy Ape, is, wait for it, truly something else. It's a classic for a reason. So buckle up, it's going to be a dramatic and hopefully an enlightening ride. Let's go. Let's meet our main man, Yank! He's the undisputed king of the stokehole. Imagine the hottest, loudest, most chaotic gym you've ever been in. Then multiply that by 1,000. That's the stokehole, deep in the belly of a giant ocean liner. It's where coal meets fire and steam makes the whole thing go. Yank doesn't just work there, he there. He feels like he the steel, the power, the roaring engines. He's one with the machine, or so he thinks. He probably has posters of furnaces on his wall, if he had walls. He's got his crew, the other stokers. They're a rough and tumble bunch, that's for sure. Think sailors on shore leave, but they never actually get to shore leave. They drink, they sing loud, off-key songs, and they occasionally get into fistfights. You know, team-building exercises. But Yank? He's the alpha, the strongest, the most elemental. He genuinely believes he and his coal-shoveling buddies are the heart of the ship. They make the world spin. He's got a bit of an ego, this one. Just a tiny bit. Like a whale has a tiny bit of blubber. Yank's whole philosophy is about belonging. He feels it deep in his sweaty, coal-dusted soul. He part of the ship. He's essential. He looks at his muscles, at the fire, and thinks, this is me. This is where I dominate. He'd probably tell you, I make this rust bucket fly across the ocean, capiche? He has this very simple, very direct view of his importance. And for a while it works for him. It's his truth, his world, his everything. It's his comfort zone, even if that zone is a furnace. But, of course, there's always a but, isn't there? Some of the other stokers grumble. They talk about the rich folks lounging on the decks above, living the easy life while they sweat and toil. Yank just scoffs at them. He's the real power, the engine. Those fancy passengers? They're just cargo, as far as he's concerned. Little does he know, his whole world, his whole sense of self, is about to get a first-class ticket to Smackdown Hotel. Oh, Yank. You're so confident, so blissfully unaware. It's like watching a disaster movie where you know the iceberg is coming. Now let's zip upstairs on this giant floating hotel. It's a whole different universe up there. Cleaner, quieter, and definitely more perfumed. And who do we meet? Mildred Douglas. She's the daughter of a steel tycoon, Mr. Big Bucks himself. She's draped in white, looking like a delicate snowflake that's never seen a day of hard work. Or dirt. She's bored, darling, terribly bored. So, she gets this brilliant idea. She wants to see how the other half lives. You know, a little social tourism, like visiting a zoo, but with more existential angst, for her anyway. Her aunt, who is basically the voice of reason, and probably a lot of fun at parties, is horrified. Mildred, sweetie, are you insane? You'll faint, it's filthy down there. Those men are uncouth. But Mildred, bless her curious heart, insists. She wants to do some good, she claims. Or maybe she just read a pamphlet about social work and thought it sounded trendy. She wants to experience something real, whatever that means when you're wearing a dress that costs more than a stoker's yearly salary. Oh, the whims of the wealthy. So down she goes. Mildred, escorted by a couple of very reluctant and increasingly sweaty ship engineers, makes her grand descent into the stokehole. Picture this, a pristine white dove fluttering into a grimy coal mine. The effect is instantaneous. The stokers, mid-shout, mid-sweat, mid-everything, just freeze. They stare. This creature, in their fiery, masculine domain, it's like an alien has landed. A very pale, very well-dressed alien. They probably thought they were hallucinating from the heat. And there's Yank. He's in full beast mode, roaring orders glistening with sweat and black coal dust, looking like a pagan god of industry. He's the embodiment of raw, untamed power. Mildred locks eyes with him, and what is her deeply insightful, empathetic reaction to this powerful display of human labor? She gasps, whispers, "Oh, the filthy beast!" And then, because she's just so delicate, she faints, right into the arms of the engineers. Way to make an entrance, Mildred, and an exit, and an enemy. Filthy beast. Those two little words, that's all it took. For Yank, it was like a sledgehammer to the soul. He, the mighty Yank, the king of the stokehole, the human engine, a beast? Called that by this pale, fragile woman who looked like she'd shatter if you breathed on her too hard? It just didn't compute. His brain basically did a full-on blue screen of death. All that confidence, all that certainty about who he was and where he belonged, poof, gone, vanished like steam. He can't shake it off. The words echo in his mind. Filthy beast, over and over. It's like the world's worst earworm, but instead of a catchy tune, it's a soul-crushing insult. Everything he believed about his strength, his importance, his very identity, it all starts to crumble. He becomes obsessed. Who was that woman? Why would she say that? He needs answers. He needs to confront her. He needs to make her see he's a man, not an animal. Or maybe he just wants to yell. A lot. His stoker buddies try to help. Some try to fight him, to snap him out of it. Others, like the old Irish stoker Paddy, get all sentimental. Paddy starts reminiscing about the good old days of sailing ships, with their clean winds and open skies. Beautiful stuff, really poetic. But it just makes Yank angrier. He doesn't want to hear about pretty clouds. He wants to understand why he was just verbally drop-kicked by a society lady. He wants to smash something, preferably something that represents her world, metaphorically speaking, we hope. So, Yank makes a decision. A big one. He has to find Mildred. He has to make her take back what she said. He has to prove he's not a filthy beast. He's a man. This becomes his new, all-consuming quest. And when Yank gets a quest, you know it's going to be, well, let's just say property values might go down. He's about to unleash himself on the unsuspecting streets of New York City. This is going to be legendary. And probably a little messy. Our boy Yank, fueled by rage and a desperate need for validation, hits the mean streets of New York. Well, not so mean for some. He ends up on Fifth Avenue. Oh, Fifth Avenue. The land of high fashion, expensive shops, and people who look like they bathe in champagne. For Yank, who's used to coal dust and grime, it's like landing on Mars, but with more poodles and tiny sweaters. He's looking for Mildred, or at least people like her. People who represent that world that just called him a beast. He tries to interact, bless his heart, he really tries. He attempts to talk to these well-dressed folks. He tries to make them see him, acknowledge him. But it's like he's speaking a different language. Or maybe he's just invisible. They brush past him, noses in the air. They give him looks that could curdle milk. It's the ultimate social snub. Poor Yank. It's like he's trying to join an exclusive club, but he doesn't just lack the secret handshake. He's wearing the wrong everything and smells like a furnace. The anger just keeps building inside him. It's a volcano about to erupt. He looks at these people, these society types, and he sees them as weak, as artificial. He's steel, he's power, they're just decorative. Like fancy teacups, he starts shouting, trying to provoke a reaction. "Where do I fit in?" he bellows. "What part of this is me?" Excellent questions, Yank. Unfortunately, Fifth Avenue isn't really known for its deep philosophical discussions with enraged stokers. They mostly just want to buy hats. Finally, something's gotta give. And it does. Yank, in a moment of pure frustration, hauls off and punches a gentleman in a top hat. Pow! Right in the kisser. Well, maybe not the kisser, but the top hat definitely went flying. Not exactly the best way to start a dialogue, Yank. Predictably, the police arrive. And guess who's getting a free ride to the local precinct? Our hairy, misunderstood protagonist. Fifth Avenue 1, Yank 0. Next stop, a lovely, all-expenses-paid stay in a city jail. Things are not looking up. So, Yank finds himself locked up, in a jail cell on Blackwell's Island. It's another cage, isn't it? First, He felt like he belonged in the cage of the stokehole, but that was his choice, his domain. This is different. This is a real, actual cage. He's trapped, confused, and feeling more misunderstood than ever. He looks around at the other prisoners. They're thieves, drunks, degenerates, at least in his eyes. He's not like them, is he? He worked. He was important. Or was he? The doubts are creeping in hard now. He starts talking to the other inmates. He tells them his story. About the ship, the fancy lady in white, the insult that broke his brain. Filthy beast. And then, a little light bulb goes off. Not Yank's light bulb, but one of the other prisoners mentions something. A group called the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World. The Wobblies. They're radicals, they're unionists. They want to shake up the system. They fight against the rich, the capitalists. They want to, change things. Maybe even with dynamite. Suddenly, Yank has an idea. A brilliant, possibly terrible, but definitely exciting idea. These IWW folks, they hate the rich. They fight the system that crushed him, that called him a beast. Maybe they will understand him. Maybe with them, he can finally belong. He can use his strength, his rage for a cause. He gets all fired up. I'll join him, he thinks. I'll show that steel millionaire Mildred's father. I'll show all of them. He's got a new mission, and it involves less punching randoms and more organized something. He gets so pumped up thinking about destroying the symbols of his oppression that he starts testing the bars of his cell. And because this is Yank and he's ridiculously strong, he actually bends them. The guards rush in, probably expecting a jailbreak sing-along. Instead, they find Yank mid-Hulk out. They're a mix of impressed and terrified, so they do the only logical thing. They turn a high-pressure hose on him. Classy. But hey, he's made his point, and soon he'll be out, heading straight for the IWW. This is gonna be good. Or a spectacular failure. Place your bets. Fresh from his rather damp and dramatic prison experience, Yank makes a beeline for the local IWW office. He's got visions of a revolutionary brotherhood dancing in his head. He imagines these guys will be just like him, only with better slogans. He expects to find fellow warriors, ready to take down the establishment, one steel mill at a time. He's practically vibrating with a desire to belong, to contribute his mighty strength to their glorious cause. He's ready to sign on the dotted line and start the smashing. He bursts into the office like a bull who's had way too much espresso. He's loud, he's intense, he's probably still a bit grimy. He announces his intentions. I want to join, I want to blow things up. Specifically, he mentions his grand plan to dynamite the steelworks owned by Mildred's father. He figures this is his ultimate job application, a real statement of intent. I'm your man for some serious steel-bending, society-shaking action, he probably roars. He's not exactly subtle, our Yank. And here comes the plot twist, folks. Prepare for disappointment. The IWW members, they are not impressed, not even a little bit. In fact, they're deeply suspicious. This wild-eyed, manic giant ranting about dynamite, they peg him as a government spy trying to infiltrate their organization. Or possibly just a dangerous lunatic who escaped from somewhere. They're more about organized labor strikes and political action, pamphlets and meetings. Not random acts of explosive terrorism proposed by a guy who looks like he arm wrestles bears for fun. So, what do these champions of the working class do? They unceremoniously kick him out, like physically escort him to the door and tell him to beat it. Poor Yank, rejected. Again, it's a trifecta of rejection. He doesn't belong with the fancy rich folks. He doesn't belong with the ordinary criminals in jail. And now, he doesn't even belong with the supposed revolutionaries who fight for the workers. Where in the world is a hairy, ape-like stoker supposed to go? This is getting seriously tragic. Even I'm feeling a bit down for the guy, and I once had to wear a chicken suit for work. So, where does a completely lost and utterly rejected soul like Yank wander to next? The zoo, of course. Why the zoo? Well, maybe he heard they had good hot dogs. Or maybe, just maybe, he was subconsciously looking for creatures he could finally relate to. He finds himself in the monkey house, and there in a strong steel cage is a massive gorilla, a powerful primal being just sitting there, and Yank, he looks at this gorilla, and something clicks. Hey, he probably thinks, you kinda get me. He starts talking to the gorilla. Now I know what you're thinking, Neil, gorillas don't talk back, and you'd be right, unless it's a very advanced gorilla, perhaps one that's been to acting school. But Yank isn't looking for a debate. He's looking for a sympathetic ear, even if it's a hairy one. He pours out his story, all his confusion, his rage, his desperate soul-crushing loneliness. He sees the gorilla as a kindred spirit, another powerful being, trapped and misunderstood by the world outside its cage. He's projecting big time. In his mind, the gorilla is the only creature on Earth that could possibly understand his predicament. It's strong, it's powerful, it's definitely a bit hairy, and it's stuck in a cage, just like Yank feels he is. So, in a moment of tragically flawed logic, Yank gets another brilliant idea. He decides he's going to set the gorilla free. "We belong together," he exclaims. "We can escape, maybe find a nice jungle somewhere downtown." Spoiler, downtown jungles are hard to come by. With his brute strength, Yank manages to pry open the gorilla's cage. Freedom, for the gorilla at least. The massive ape steps out. And what does it do? Does it thank Yank? Shake his hand? Offer him a banana? Nope, it gives Yank a hug. A giant, bone-crushingly powerful gorilla hug. Then, with a demonstration of superior strength, it casually tosses Yank into the now empty cage, crushes his ribs and wanders off, probably to find the snack bar. Oh, the cruel, cruel irony. Yank, the hairy ape, dies in a gorilla's cage. His search for belonging ends in the most literal, tragic way possible. What a downer ending, right? So, that's the story of Yank. It ends with him in a gorilla cage, which, let's be honest, is not exactly the uplifting finale we all secretly hope for. No riding off into the sunset, no last-minute redemption. Eugene O'Neill wasn't really aiming for a feel-good comedy here, despite my attempts to lighten the mood. He wanted to make us think. And if your brain isn't doing a few somersaults after hearing this tale, well, you might be an actual robot. This play is designed to get under your skin. What's the big takeaway message then? It's a powerful look at what it feels like to be lost and alienated in a rapidly changing world. Yank was a man of the industrial age. All brawn, all power, perfectly suited for a world of steam and steel. But society was evolving, modernizing, and Yank? He couldn't keep up. He couldn't find his place. He was too raw for the refined upper class, too chaotic for the organized workers, and ultimately, too human for the animal kingdom. It's a story about the struggle to find meaning when your world leaves you behind. It's also a pretty sharp critique of class and dehumanization. Think about it. Mildred's careless insult, "filthy beast," was the catalyst for Yank's entire downward spiral. The indifference of the wealthy on Fifth Avenue, the suspicion of the IWW, it all contributed. The play really makes you wonder, who are the real beasts in this story? Is it the man covered in coal dust, doing the hard labor, or is it the society that discards him, that can crush a person's spirit with a few careless words or a cold shoulder? It's heavy stuff, I know. So, what can we learn from Yank's tragic, slightly bizarre journey? Maybe it's that everyone, no matter who they are or what they do, deserves to feel a sense of belonging, and that judging people based on their job, their appearance, or how much soot they have on their face is, frankly, just not cool. The Hairy Ape is a tough play, no doubt about it. It's a bit of a gut punch. But it's also a timeless reminder to practice a little more empathy, a little more understanding, and perhaps a reminder not to open gorilla cages. Seriously, that's just good life advice.